Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Cabinet meeting. So this meeting is being streamed live to the Cheltenham Borough Council YouTube channel and recorded for training purposes. So it assumes that in making any representations to the meeting tonight, you're consenting to the use of those sound recordings for broadcasting and training purposes. That takes us into section 1, which is the procedural matters. I have apologies from Councillors Clucas, Wilkinson and Horwood for tonight's meeting. Are there any declarations of interest? Nope. And then we take us on to the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any comments on that? So could I see a show of hands to approve those minutes, please, that were held on the 8th of November? Thank you very much. I will sign those duly when... We have two member questions that were put to us. They were written answers given. I am assuming that as Councillor Flynn is not here, there are no supplementaries. So those questions have been responded to and published, and they will be published, the answers, in due course. There's no matters referred to the Cabinet by Council or overview and scrutiny or any other committee. That takes us on to section 5, which is the reports from Cabinet members. It does always say in there, and or officers, but it is reports from Cabinet in this instance, or for today's meeting. In Councillor Clucas's absence, which is the Household Support Fund programme, I asked her to contribute or to write what she would have said had she been here, which I'm proposing to read out. So, Cheltenham Borough Council has been allocated funding from the Household Support Fund. The government allocates such funding through the County Council. The first tranche was used between the 1st of April and the 30th of September this year and amounted to 150,000. The second tranche is of 123,000, covers the period from the 1st of October until the 31st of March 2023. The fund is to provide support to vulnerable households in most need of support to help with significantly rising living costs in line with eligible expenditure. Our partners are an established network of providers, and all of them have a high priority in promoting equity and tackling discrimination. Within the scheme, we have the flexibility to identify which vulnerable households are in most need of support, and we can apply discretion in relation to the allocation of monies. However, the grant must be allocated against a specific framework. That framework is at least 1/3 of the total funding will be ring-fenced to support households with children. At least 1/3 of the total funding will be ring-fenced to support pensioners. Up to 1/3 of the total funding is for households in genuine need of support, and this may include households not currently in receipt of DWP welfare benefits. There are a range of eligibilities, including energy and water and food. Essentially, Food is linked to energy and water and wider essentials, which can be used to support needs not linked to the energy and water, if the local authority thinks this is appropriate in our area. This may be support for bills, including broadband, clothing, essential transport-related costs, such as repairing a car, buying a bicycle, or paying for fuel. The list is not exhaustive. The report shows the provider that we have selected the activity that has to be funded through the scheme and the amount of money being given to that organisation, in addition to demonstrating the amount of money spent on each activity. There is also the amount spent on administration, which is in the report. So we've worked within this framework and with partners who we know will be able to deliver the plan that we have outlined, set out above, and as set out in the report. Does any member have any comment that they wish to make about this report? Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Leader. In the absence of our colleague, I would like to say something. Cheltenham, as we know, is an affluent town, but like all towns, we suffer from extreme pockets of poverty, and I think this report goes to show where we distribute those funds, not only this funding, but funding across the piece from this council. Colleagues, and we've discussed many times our vulnerable residents, and I think it clearly highlights in this report, you see where different levels of funding are going in the two different boxes of diagrams in section 2.8 of the report. And it just makes you think that people out there are struggling to buy the basics and turn the lights on and feed themselves. So whenever we do things in this chamber, I think it's incumbent to try and link that back to those vulnerable residents, because I know that we all focus on our most vulnerable residents. And in her absence, I'd just like to thank Councillor Clucas for her hard work in this area, Leader, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? No. Can I see a show of hands to approve those recommendations, please? Thank you. That's unanimous. That then takes us on to agenda item 6, which is the Resident Satisfaction Survey results. And that's the report, my report. So, as members know, resident surveys are frequently carried out by local councils in order to collect statistically robust views from a representative sample of residents. This council last did a resident survey in 2019. And throughout the survey, it's important that we ask some of the same questions this year in order to be able to benchmark against the previous one that we did. And in doing so, it gives, a statistical, evidence-based benchmark for us. So the survey was undertaken by a sample of people who live in Cheltenham, and all results are subject to sampling tolerances. And that's based on the ONS mid-2020 estimates. And the Cheltenham population of those aged 16 and over, or 16 and above, should I say, is 95,371, meaning that the 1,100 representative sample size will provide us with an accuracy of plus minus 2.9%, and that gives it the 95% confidence interval for us. Overall, and I'm just going to give some highlights because it's a very detailed report, so I'm just going to pick out a few highlights of this report that says overall resident satisfaction with their local area as a place to live is at 90%, which is a 6% increase since 2019, and actually, interestingly, is 9% higher than the national LGA polling survey, because we also ask some LGA national questions, LGA being Local Government Association, and again, we repeat those as benchmarks. So it also tells us that satisfactions with our parks and gardens came in at 90%. Overall, agreement through this, the agreement has increased for all statements about Cheltenham as a place to live, with the largest increase recorded for Cheltenham has a positive future at plus 19% up, which is really positive. So regarding our town centre amenities, the largest increase in overall satisfaction was recorded for events, and that was up by 21%. We recognise the focus on the high street regeneration, which gives job opportunities. It's also clear from the survey that we must maintain our commitment to building more affordable homes. I'll finish by saying that dealing with some of the issues raised in this survey, they can't be resolved by this authority alone. So our ethos of partnership working is extremely important. And on that basis, I will be sharing this, or we will be sharing this with all of our partners, and not least because some of the statistics that came out, evidence, on roads and pavements is not something that we can deal with. So actually sharing this data information with the County Council and the police that we work with very closely in terms of ASB is really important. I'm very happy for members to ask any questions or comments. Does any member wish to say anything?
Thank you, Leader. It's interesting, isn't it? As councillors, we're always out there talking to our residents, and we hear a range of views and opinions, and we've all got a range of views and opinions, but actually to have some statistical data supporting what we do as a council, I think is quite key. So it's always a blandish kind of topic, depending on your point of view, but actually I think there's lots of positives in here, and I'm really pleased to hear the Leader mentioning that you will have that feedback conversation with partners where clearly there's things that we can't do as a council or we aren't directly responsible for. So I think that continued partnership work is a real positive for us in Cheltenham. Thank you, Leader.
Could I see a show of hands, please? Thank you. That takes us on to agenda item 7, which is the use of the green investment funds, and that's the report of Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. I'm really excited to bring this policy through to you to Cabinet this evening, and particular thanks to Alex Wells and the climate team who have worked incredibly hard to get us to where we are at this point. The new building management scheme project is something we're looking to fund with the Green Investment Deal, which is something Max Wilkinson worked incredibly hard to deliver while he was in this post. And I think it's a really good first place to start in terms of looking at projects, as the Green Investment Fund does, which will allow us to invest in sustainable solutions that will pay themselves off. These are projects that will save us more money than they cost in the long run, and I think this is a really strong candidate for that case. The new building management project will be, provided it's approved by Cabinet, supporting all of our buildings within our main portfolio, including properties like the Pittville Pump Room, Cheltenham Borough Council and the Wilson, to ensure that their energy use and how we're using energy in these properties is properly managed and properly maintained. It will cover everything from making sure we're not heating or powering things that aren't in use, through to ensuring that we can manage all these properties off-site, so if something happens or if we need to change the heating in response to an extreme weather event, we're able to do that with real ease remotely rather than having to worry about finding bolts and knobs in the basement. I think this is a really strong investment, and this is the top of the line technology that will allow us to, as we move forward as a council with investing in climate sustainable energy sources, this project will allow us to plug them straight in. We will be able to manage our energy use, reducing the amount of energy we're using, therefore making things like solar panels far more viable in the long run, but particularly it will be saving the council a substantial amount of money. It's a win-win-win case as far as I'm concerned, and I thank the officers, as I said, for all the work they've been doing on this and so many other energy efficiency and climate energy projects we're working on at the moment. I'm happy to take any questions, but I do encourage you all to accept the recommendations.
Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, councillors, for bringing this report to us today. I think this is brilliant news for the council, and the fact that we're working with the Trust on our other buildings across the town centre. Technology today, in terms of building management systems, has really, really advanced, and we all know that buildings are a major contributor to using energy. So any technology that we can use and upgrade our current systems so that we're able to pinpoint exactly where we're using energy and how we can look to reduce that energy is going to be a brilliant, knock-on impact in terms of positive impact for the environment, and as you say, help with reducing our costs associated to energy uses as well. So yeah, I'm definitely in fully support of this report. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, for a whole host of reasons, why wouldn't you support a report like this? Firstly, from my perspective and the council's finances, reducing and having a better impact on those finances, undoubtedly a win. But actually, I think more importantly, it's how we manage the buildings. And some of these buildings are loved across the town, not in Cheltenham, as we know, across our town, but actually they're across the country. These are some really significantly important buildings. That town hall of ours, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people enjoy that building, not only from Cheltenham. So obviously investing in those buildings for the future in terms of their energy usage is good for climate change, it's good for our financial bottom line. So I think it's a win-win all round. So thank you, Councillor Lewis, for bringing this forward.
If there's no other questions, can I see a show of hand to approve the recommendations? Thank you, that's unanimous. the next report is the Treasury mid-term report, which is the report of Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Leader. Normally I give a lovely speech and introduction to my reports, but this one is going on to Council on Monday, so I'm going to be very brief, if that's okay, Leader. I'm sure colleagues have had a chance to read the report. It sets out the Treasury management activities up to September of this year. I'm sure you won't recall not so long ago the economic turbulence that we were all witnessing. That's set in the background of further pressures in terms of inflation and previous economic turbulence. So our Treasury management team has had a lot to do, and there's been some movement, both positive and negative. But like I say, Leader, I'm happy to take those questions and that further debate at Council or this evening now, and that's what I'm going to say tonight, if that's okay, Leader. Thank you.
Does anybody wish to comment, or are you going to keep your powder dry until Monday? Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of these updates, and it's really good to see that some of those updates included closer working with charities and social housing providers, the likes of Cheltenham Borough Homes, that we're also able to proactively support them and on their behalf in terms of protecting their organisations as well.
So can I see a show of hands that we should send this on to Council? Thank you. That's unanimous. Agenda item 19 is counter fraud and anti-corruption policy, which again come back to you, Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the counter fraud and anti-corruption strategy. I don't know if colleagues are aware, but I'm sure they are, that Cheltenham Council is a member of the Counter Fraud Partnership. This partnership sits within the Publica to administer for us. The Counter Fraud and Enforcement Unit have developed a fraud risk strategy for implementation across the whole of the partnership, hence the report this evening. The strategy is attached to Appendix 2 of the report. It's been developed to comply with the government functional standards relating to counter fraud activities. And the strategy sets out the definitions and motivations for the fraud and principles of risk management. Risk management is something we're well aware of. So being risk aware is vital to ensuring the effective operation of this strategy within our council. As a phrase we use quite often in this council, being risk aware puts us in a better position, but it also puts us in a better position to develop the processes which reduce the loss and impact and also increase our ability to recover any funds. Dealing with and handling public money comes with a level of trust. With the risk of fraud and corruption ever present, it is incumbent upon us all to take the actions to mitigate against all these risks. So I'm happy to bring this report and this strategy to Cabinet. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffreys. Just for the record, I think maybe there's I think you said that Ubico administer for it. We do it through SWAT, the South West Audit Partnership, rather than through Ubico.
Sorry, we don't do either. So it's an entirely separate service to Publica. No, it's not Publica. So the Counter Fraud Unit Partnership is the 5 partner councils. We're employed by one of them and we're seconded out to the rest of you. But it's not through SWAP and it's not through Publica.
Thank you for that clarity. Has any member got a question? I think what is important to note on this is not who does it or doesn't do it, is the fact that actually we've got that, and I mean it's a really effective team of people who work together, and they certainly helped. You know, they help us to double check with our revs and bends, for example, and when all the grants during COVID were, there was that check and balance through them to check that people were claiming where they had a right to claim and being told, no, you don't have a right to claim. So that, because as members will remember, all of that was about, if we got it wrong, we had to pay the money back to government. So it was important that we made sure that we had that check and balance through it. So are members happy, if nobody else has any comments, are members happy to approve the policy that's attached to this report? Thank you. Ian, are you? And thank you for correcting us. So that now takes us on to Cabinet member briefings. Councillor Lewis, have you got anything you wish to brief?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to, in response to all the press coverage I'm sure people have seen over the last few days, confirm that we have been approved for funding for our viability study for heat networks in both Cheltenham Town Centre and in the Golden Valley. And it's really exciting that we'll be trying these things out and informing national government policy, which is something we always like to lead the way in technological innovation in Cheltenham, and this is a really exciting opportunity. Also to note that our fantastic climate team and Laura Tapping have been invited to speak to the public sector teams across the UK about our really exciting climate impact assessment tool that I'm sure you've all seen on reports. So again, Cheltenham Borough Council leading the way and sharing all our expertise in tackling the climate crisis with councils across the country. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Dobie.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually build on something that you said earlier about the satisfaction survey amongst our residents. Two of the surveys which got the highest scores, in that the residents appreciated them most, were about household recycling and the way that we're working with new services too. And I'd just like to highlight at this point that we're continuing that innovation, and I'm sure the innovation is one of the reasons we get such a high score, with the Flex Collect system, which is being piloted in one part of Cheltenham. And just as the Podback was we were the first in the country to be recycling coffee pods, so we're right in the forefront of recycling soft plastics through this Flex Collect system. And I'm confident that we will be rolling that out in future across the town, and indeed that we will also be rolling out the recycling of other materials and being in the forefront of the nation in doing so. So I think we can be proud of that, and that's one of the reasons why we're scoring so high in the satisfaction survey. So thank you.
Councillor Jeffries. Councillor Atherstone. Councillor Collins. Thank you all for your contribution to that. That takes us on to section 7, agenda item 10, which is the briefing. It's decisions made by Cabinet. I believe there were 2 decisions. Councillor Collins, you made a decision.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Please bear with me. I've managed to break my glasses, so you all know what I want for Christmas. I've agreed to extend the consultation of an award a contract to Nick Sturge of Omnigenics to support the Golden Valley development. Nick's a leader in the industry on cyber ecosystems and workstream engagement with academia and talent development. So it's simply an extension of what was already happening. This is for another 24-month period. All due diligence was carried out, including the voluntary transparency notice that was published in September. After the 30-day period, there were no challenges, so it goes ahead without challenge. And that takes us up to the 31st of March 2024. So it's a good move, and it will allow some continuity with our team on the Golden Valley development. Happy to answer any questions.
You're just reporting a decision, Councillor Collins. But thank you for the offer. In the absence of Councillor Wilkinson, who made a decision on the 16th of November in relation to the Cheltenham Trust and Cheltenham Borough Council and our contract for services with them, you can see that decision on the Democracy website. It has been published, but in his absence, I'm just reporting that he took that decision. That brings us to the end of the public session for Cabinet tonight. We do have 3 confidential items. So unless somebody tells me otherwise, can I see a show of hands, or do I need to read out in full? Read it out. So the Cabinet is recommended to approve the following resolution, that in accordance with Section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining agenda items, as it is likely that, in view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings, if members of the public are present, there will be disclosed to them exempt information as defined in paragraph 1, 2 and 3, Part 1, Schedule 12A, Local Government Act 1972. Namely, paragraph 1, information relating to an individual, paragraph 2, information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual, paragraph 3, information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. Could I see a show of hands to confirm? Thank you.